There's a grass growing wild across most of North America right now that 2 indigenous tribes used to keep mosquitoes off their skin for centuries. It smells like fresh vanilla and cut hay. Genuinely one of the nicest scents in nature. The U.S. Department of Agriculture tested it in a laboratory against Deet, the synthetic chemical the U.S. Army has been selling to the public since 1957, and the grass matched it. Not roughly, not almost. Matched it. A $7 billion a year industry depends on you not knowing that. And until 2015, even most scientists didn't know why it worked. Stick with me. The plant is called Sweetgrass, Hierocloe odorata. It grows across Canada, across the northern United States, across most of Europe and northern Asia. It has been used in Native American ceremony and medicine for longer than European contact records exist. Braided into ropes, burned like incense, woven into baskets, sewn into clothing. 2 specific tribes, the Flathead of Montana and the Blackfoot of Alberta, used it practically. They burned it and let the smoke saturate their clothing before going out, or placed sachets of it inside their garments to keep biting insects at bay. This was documented by ethnobotanists and passed down through both oral tradition and written record. It worked. Nobody in the scientific community paid much attention to why. Then in 2015, a research chemist named Charles Cantrell at the USDA's Natural Products Utilization Research Unit in Mississippi decided to find out. His team performed steam distillation on sweetgrass samples, passing hot steam through the plant material, condensing it, and separating the oil fraction containing the plant's volatile chemical compounds. They then filled vials with a red feeding solution designed to mimic human blood, covered them with membranes, coated those membranes with different sweetgrass extracts, and released mosquitoes. The mosquitoes bit the unprotected membranes. They avoided the sweetgrass ones. At the American Chemical Society's national meeting in Boston, Cantrell's team reported that the steam-distilled sweetgrass oil matched the repellent potency of Deet in their bioassay. Not close, matched. They then broke the oil into 12 separate chemical fractions to find out exactly which compounds were doing it. 2 came out on top, phytol and coumarin. Both have documented insect-repelling activity in the scientific literature. Both are present in significant concentrations in sweetgrass. The sweet, hay-like smell of the plant, the exact thing that makes it a pleasure to be around, is the repellent. The mosquito's misery is your enjoyment, which is extremely satisfying once you know it. Here's how mosquito repellents actually work, and why Deet was ever considered necessary in the first place. Mosquitoes find you by smell. Specifically, female mosquitoes, the ones that bite, detect lactic acid and carbon dioxide that your skin continuously emits. Those compounds guide them from up to 50 meters away. But here's the part most people have never heard. Mosquitoes do not target your body evenly. Research published in the journal Trends in Parasitology confirms that once a mosquito gets within 1 meter of you, it homes in on the spots where your body emits the highest concentration of lactic acid and heat simultaneously. Those are your apocrine gland zones, the areas where your sweat glands are most dense and most active. Your ankles and feet, the backs of your knees, your wrists, behind your ears, your neck. In plain terms, mosquitoes are already aiming for the exact spots you never think to protect. Most people spray their arms and call it done. The mosquito is heading for the back of your knee and your ankle because that is where the chemical signal is loudest. A repellent works by either masking those signals or by emitting a compound that overwhelms the mosquito's olfactory receptors so completely that it cannot navigate. Deet works primarily through the second mechanism. Developed in 1946 by the U.S. Army for soldiers in jungle combat, it became available to the public in 1957, and the repellent industry was essentially built around it because nothing else lasted as long on skin. The honest version of why synthetic repellents dominate has nothing to do with effectiveness and everything to do with duration. Deet stays active on skin for 8 to 12 hours. Natural plant-based repellents, including sweetgrass extracts, typically provide protection for 2 to 4 hours before needing reapplication. That duration gap is real and worth knowing. But it is also the wrong comparison if you are thinking about this correctly. Because here's the thing nobody selling you a can of Deet wants you to think about. A can of repellent spray lasts a summer. Sweetgrass, planted once in your yard, grows back every year indefinitely. A braid of sweetgrass hung by your door, replaced a few times through summer, costs nothing after the first season. Sachets of it in your patio furniture, bundles of it burned on the grill before you sit down to eat outside. The duration of any individual application is shorter, but the supply is permanent, the cost is zero, and the active compounds are the same ones the USDA verified in a laboratory setting. Nobody's going to sell you a subscription to a plant you grow yourself. That is the whole point. Here is exactly how to use it and how to get it. Sweetgrass is available as a live plant or as plugs from native plant nurseries, online herb suppliers, and increasingly at garden centers in regions where it grows naturally. It prefers moist, slightly acidic soil and partial sun. It grows naturally along stream banks and wet meadows, so it does well in your downspouts, in rain gardens, or in any spot that holds moisture. Once established, it spreads by rhizome and requires essentially no maintenance. Plant it once, and it comes back every spring, spreading slowly into a larger patch each year. A small plug costs $3 to $5. A decent-sized clump costs under $10. One planting produces decades of material. To use it as a repellent, cut a handful of fresh blades and braid them into a loose rope, tight enough to hold together, loose enough to keep the cross-section of plant material exposed. The braid maximizes surface area and keeps the plant releasing its volatile compounds continuously. Wear the braid on your wrist or around your neck. Hang braids near outdoor seating. Rub a fresh cut blade directly on your forearms, the back of your neck, your wrists, and behind your ears. Those apocrine hotspots the mosquito is already targeting. The oils transfer on direct contact and you smell like a meadow, which is considerably better than smelling like a chemical plant. Reapply every 2 to 3 hours if you are in a heavily infested area, for a longer lasting application that stays on skin through activity and light. Sweat. You can make a simple salve with dried sweetgrass in under 20 minutes. Melt 2 tablespoons of beeswax pellets and 3 tablespoons of coconut oil together in a small heat-safe bowl over simmering water. When fully liquid, remove from heat, let it cool for 3 minutes, then stir in 2 tablespoons of sweetgrass-infused oil, made by soaking a handful of dried sweetgrass in coconut oil for 2 weeks, or by gently warming it on low heat for 2 hours to speed the process. Add 10 drops of lemon eucalyptus essential oil, which the CDC formally recognizes as an effective plant-based repellent. Pour into a small tin or glass jar and let it set at room temperature for 30 minutes. Apply a thin layer to your pulse points, ankles, wrists, behind the knees and ears, exactly where the science says the mosquito is looking. It holds on skin significantly longer than a spray and travels easily in a pocket or bag. You can also make a simple spray. Bring 2 cups of water to a boil, add a large handful of fresh sweetgrass, cover and simmer for 20 minutes, then cool completely. Strain into a spray bottle and keep it in the fridge for up to a week. The spray is essentially what the USDA team produced through steam distillation at home without a laboratory. One honest limit. If you're traveling to a region with active malaria, dengue, or Zika transmission, Deet or picaridin remains the safest primary protection. Natural repellents, including sweetgrass, are appropriate for backyard use, casual outdoor time, and environments where the risk is discomfort rather than disease. For high transmission environments abroad, use what is proven to last. That is the honest line, and this channel always gives you the honest line. The $7 billion global mosquito repellent industry was built in 1957 on a chemical the U.S. Army developed for jungle warfare. The plant that matched it in a USDA laboratory test has been growing wild across North America since before any of those products existed, used by people who never needed a patent to understand what worked. Coumarin and phytol were always in that grass. The mosquitoes always hated them. The blackfoot and flathead always knew it. The science just took until 2015 to confirm what they had been doing for centuries. You can plant it this weekend for $5. It will be back every spring for the rest of your life. Try putting that in a spray can and selling it for $8 a bottle. They can't. And that right there is why you've never heard of it. Share this with someone who spends their whole summer soaked in Deet. They deserve to know there was always another way.